Somewhere in space, this may all be happening right now.
Ever since Star Wars was first released, it was obvious that George Lucas's universe couldn't be contained to just the medium of film. After over 4 decades, the mythos has expanded into comics, novels, audio, and almost any other form of storytelling media there is, including, of course, video games. Despite licensees republishing some content where there is a clear market, over the years some Star Wars stories have become out of print and rare. Most notably, many of the short stories that were published exclusively in roleplay supplements, magazines, and even some of the video game strategy guides. These can now only be found on the second-hand market, where the prices can fluctuate. Other content appears to have been made with the intention of it being limited. For example, if you happen to live outside the US, you may feel slightly alienated when it comes to Galaxy's Edge and some of the merchandise that's exclusive to the park and select US retailers. This not only includes the story content of the park and its rides, which obviously cannot be helped, but exclusive, expanded editions of some of the books, which on the face of it just seem spiteful. Conversely, there have also been many comic strips published in European magazines, which have never been published in the US. In fact, there are a number of examples of non-English language official comics and novels that have never been translated or officially published in English-speaking countries. Regardless of how rare or region-locked some media may be, it's a far cry from being considered lost media. Lost media refers specifically to media that is known to have existed, but which cannot now, or perhaps only partially, be accounted for. When it comes to Star Wars, if we discount unreleased projects that are known to have been nearly finished, such as 1313 or Battlefront 3, as well as the various different cuts and editions of the movies which may never have had home media releases, there are surprisingly few examples of genuinely lost media. Even the Star Wars Holiday Special aired once in 1978 and never officially released in any format except for a small segment on the 2011 Blu-ray bonus disc for The Empire Strikes Back, saw bootleg distribution in the 1990s and is now widely available, albeit unofficially and in poor quality. It goes without saying that Star Wars fans are extremely passionate, and the thought that any part of this mythos could become lost forever is a painful one. As such, there have been several fan projects designed to catalogue and archive extremely rare media. One of these archives is called Lost Worlds, and is hosted on StarWarsTimeline.net. Here you will find a great deal of content you may not even know exists, and is updated as new discoveries are made. If you're a fan of the expanded universe and despair at its discontinuation, the website is definitely worth your time checking out, and there are some very exciting projects on the way. It was on the site's Facebook page that the call was put out requesting help with finding and archiving some potential lost media. Several browser-based Flash games that are no longer hosted by the official websites they were released on. Unless these games could be found and saved in some playable format, or their content recorded in video, they would in essence be lost media, along with any story content they contain. Unfortunately, as technology moves forward, we find it far easier for this sort of media to become lost. We have seen this with the Shadows of the Empire enhanced CD content, which is now difficult to get to work on anything without a CD-ROM drive of the period. Similar to this, many early video games were only ever released on now obsolete formats, requiring very specific hardware to run. Thankfully, in most cases, constantly updated emulators and game archivists dumping the ROMs allow us to play these on modern operating systems, and even in new consoles. Most of these games are also extensively archived in video format on YouTube, for those fans who may just want to experience the story without having to play the game themselves. Therefore, the greatest threat to games becoming unplayable is not the physical format or the hardware. The greatest threat is where there is no format, where games are only available digitally or require a connection to online servers in order to play them. These games, once they become unsupported by the manufacturer, are in many cases lost to us. Some, like the Galaxy's MMO, have found new life thanks to fan servers, but other games like Uprising are totally unavailable, even if you happen to still have the app installed.
And your future.
In the case of the Flash games we'll be looking at in this video, further threatening their playability is the fact that the Flash player is becoming obsolete at the end of 2020. Therefore, it's important that if these games can be found, a recording is made to ensure they are archived for the future. Although the Wayback Machine has archived the web pages where these games were originally available, it does not archive media. Thankfully, some of these games are for the time being archived in a playable format on StarWarsGamesOnline.com.
This is where the fun begins.
The first two games, Jetpack Trooper and Aquatic Adventure, were both released to tie in with the 2010 MMORPG Star Wars Clone Wars Adventures, itself a game no longer supported by the manufacturer as of 2014, and now only playable via a fan-created emulator which, at the moment, has severely limited functionality. I never played Clone Wars Adventures when it was current, so have no nostalgic connection to it, but I hope those that do follow this development and are able to enjoy the game once again.
Clone Wars Adventures. The Force is in you.
Jetpack Trooper is a very short, extremely easy platformer. We play as a clone trooper in Phase 1 armour who has to jetpack his way to the top of a communication tower while fending off droid forces in order to call for Republic reinforcements. You can move left and right and ascend using the jetpack, which has limited fuel. Landing or collecting certain icons replenish the fuel. As you ascend, the view follows you. Descending below the view is the only way to fail your mission. You can shoot the droids to help clear your path. Getting hit causes your fuel to run out faster. There are also several icons to collect throughout the level which give you points. These points appear to have no purpose, and you only need to get to the top in order to gain the code to unlock the speeder for the MMO. Due to the architecture in the background, it's clear we're on Christophsis, the planet we're introduced to in the 2008 animated movie. The game itself is probably set somewhere between the Season 1 episode The Hidden Enemy and the movie itself.
Supposed to be.
I'm Ahsoka. Master Yoda sent me.
The second game from the Clone Wars Adventures, Aquatic Assault, also rewards the player with a code to unlock an item within the MMO, this time the Nalona lightsaber hilt. It's not clear who you play in the game, but as it appears to be set during the Season 4 Mon Cala arc of the Clone Wars, I suspect we're intended to be Ahsoka. The game is significantly more challenging than Jetpack Trooper, and is played in 3 stages, each introducing new and more challenging enemies. The player character slowly follows after the mouse cursor, simulating underwater mechanics. Power-ups are plentiful, however, the explosives should be used sparingly. The best tactic is to stay as far away from enemies as possible, and only use the charges in the second and third stages in situations where you are surrounded by close combat enemies. You beat each stage by destroying a set amount of enemies, with the third stage offering the reward code. The third game, Sharpshooter, was released in 2008 as part of the marketing for the Clone Wars movie, although the trailer for the Clone Wars Adventures suggests a similar, perhaps identical target range game was included therein. This game is perhaps the easiest of them all. You shoot at the droid targets and are rewarded points which vary depending on where you hit them. You are to avoid shooting the friendly targets. There are 5 stages, with each adding progressively faster and more awkwardly positioned targets, as well as more friendly targets for them to hide behind. There is no storyline to this game, but we might assume it takes place shortly before the movie. The fourth game I played, Droids over Iego, is probably the most interesting and certainly the most challenging. In order to beat the game, you have to concentrate more on not getting hit than shooting the enemy ships. Like most other Flash games, the points are pointless. The only collectibles worth picking up are for weapons upgrades and shield replenishments. There are bonus stages that can be entered which allow you to collect bonus points and some power-ups. However, the asteroids are incredibly difficult to see in those bonus areas, and as the points mean nothing, they're best avoided completely.
2 acts, ready when you are, Skipper.
The first seasons of the Clone Wars were produced and aired out of chronological order. Confusingly, the Star Wars website Hyperspace produced webcomics that attempted to bridge the gaps between these out-of-order episodes and make the series feel more cohesive. The final comic produced for Season 1, called Hunting the Hunters, was in 3 parts, the third of which saw Anakin and Obi-Wan return to Iego, and follows the events in the episode Mystery of 1,000 Moons.
There it is, Iego.
What do you make of this?
It looks like a graveyard of ships.
Droids over Iego is essentially a missing page in the webcomic, and you're prompted to play the game before reading the final page. The webcomic is available in the Lost Worlds archive on StarWarsTimeline.net. The final game we will look at in this video is Cad Bane, Jedi Hunter. The game appears to be a loose adaptation of the Season 1 episode Hostage Crisis, in which Cad Bane infiltrates the Senate building. The game is extremely awkward to play due to the movable view. However, it does feature nice character animations and some video. The game is split into 3 stages, with your gun upgrading with each. Unfortunately, the playable version of the game on StarWarsGamesOnline.com crashes after the second stage, which means I have not been able to complete this game. Flash games occupy a very niche place in gaming. To most, they were little more than a distraction when we were meant to be doing something more important, not unlike the Windows games such as Solitaire or Minesweeper. Over the last decade or more, mobile games have usurped their position in this regard, offering more involved gameplay and potential for monetization. Still, the era of the Flash games will be fondly remembered, and despite the games often being simplistic and offering little depth, I feel they do deserve recognition and archiving for future generations. If we are to do this, now is the time, before even more are lost. There are already websites dedicated to this endeavour. For each of the games featured in this video, I will be uploading a long play version without commentary over the next week. If you have a playable copy of Airstrike, Clone Weapon Training, Gunship over Florum, Path of the Jedi, Swamp Station Sweep, or a complete copy of Cad Bane Jedi Hunter, please get in touch, because I'd love to archive those games on the channel. You can contact me on Twitter at GFFA_games.
I shall not fail my dark master.
The dark side? I've been there. Do your worst.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the teaser for the Dark Forces video series I'm currently producing, where I plan to explore the intertextuality of Star Wars by using the Dark Forces saga as a case study. I don't quite know how many videos it will take, but it all depends on how deep I decide to go in my exploration. The first part should be out soon, but I have at least 2 further videos I may get out first, not including the long play versions of the Flash games discussed here. If you'd like more Star Wars content, please check out the Positively Star Wars Senate podcast, where I occasionally appear, links for which I've included in the video description.
This is too easy. Now to get to my ship.